Hello everyone. Now we are going to learn the new topic name, and the name of the topic is benchmarking. So in general, what is the meaning of benchmarking? We are just talking about some standards or some benchmark by which we are going to compare our product or the others product. So there are some benefits of benchmarking as well. And what are the benefits? The benefits are it improves the performance, it increases the community intelligence, and it enhances the productivity as well. How this is going to happen, and like these benefits are how beneficial for us, that we are going to see one by one. So there are many points are associated with the benchmarking. So in general, what is benchmarking? Benchmarking is a process for measuring a company's operation against the best practices of companies both inside and outside of their industry. The line is very simple. Benchmarking is a process for measuring a company's operation against the best practices. It means, say, suppose if company is working and they have some kind of standard, okay, and other companies are also working and they also have some kind of standards. So what is happening? They are going to match the best practices based upon the requirement. So it takes its name from the surveyor's benchmark or reference point. So in general, what we can say, benchmarking is nothing but it's a reference point from which elevations are measured. Means minimum standard or minimum benchmark or the reference point we have to consider for any kind of product development. In general, benchmarking is applied to all aspects of business, whether it's a manufacturing, whether it's a design, whether it's a project, construction, or any field. It is a way to learn from other business through an exchange of information. Let's take the example of iPhone. uh, so if iPhone is having a benchmark in terms of camera quality as well as the functionality, there is no lagging. So it is also giving an information to other business to match the standard. Then benchmarking operates most effectively on a quid pro quo basis. Means what? As an exchange of information between companies that are not direct competitors but can learn from each other's business operation. Nowadays, what is happening? People are doing the collaboration. Many companies like Foxconn has started the plant in India, as well as Tata is collaborating with other companies. And what they are doing, Tata is developing the product for foreign companies. So they are not the direct competitors, but what they are doing, they are just increasing their profit as well as sales by developing the others product. Okay. So in general, other sources for discovering best practices include business partners. Like I said, Tata is developing the product for other vendors, then businesses in the same supply chain like automobile manufacturing suppliers, and companies in collaborative and cooperative groups or industry consultants. So what they are doing, they are just working together to increase the benchmark or to meet the reference point. Sometimes it is happening the trade professionals association can facilitate benchmark exchanges. Means they are going to sit together and they are going to fix the reference point, like minimum these certain amount of qualities you are going to consider. Okay, that is the benchmarking exchanges. More often it requires good context for good offering information from your own company that may seem useful to the companies you benchmark. So ultimately what we have to do, we have to mutually agree on one point, and then you can transfer the information. So any organization can also look for benchmark in many different places, including within its own organizational structures. Identifying intra-company best practices is one of the most efficient way to improve overall company's performance through benchmarking. See, if any organization is developing some product, so they can set the benchmark for their particular product. But if the same company is purchasing some kind of components from other companies, then they are also giving some certain benchmark to that supplier, so that they can have a good quality product. Now comes to the next point, and what it says, even in enlightening organizations, resistance to new idea may develop. It is the common practice in the industry, like if the people are following the same methods every time, and if you are going to incorporate a new method, then people will start to resist. Then benchmarking is usually introduced by a manager who is responsible for all activities. Okay, and what is going to happen? Manager will introduce the benchmarking and he will set the target. Then what is going to happen, since not all personnel involved in the process have the same education or comfort level, because everyone is having different experience as well as the education level. So an implementation team can encounter resistance. There is a chance that people may resist your benchmarking sometimes. This is happening in the industry. So the more common sources of resistance to benchmarking are, what are these? First of all, the fear is there. And the what is that? Fear of being perceived as copiers. Like if you are setting a standard, then you may have a fear that people will say, okay, you have copied. Then fear of yielding competitive advantages if information is traded or shared. Like if you are making a collaboration with other companies, that time you can have this type of fear in mind. Then comes to the next point, that is arrogance. And what it says, that a company may feel that there is nothing useful to be learned by looking outside of the organization, or it may feel that it is the benchmark. That is the arrogance. Like you can see the downfall of BlackBerry. They haven't changed their self. Okay. Now comes to the next point, that is impatience. Impatience means what? Companies that engage in an improvement program often want to begin making changes immediately, whereas benchmarking provides the first step in a program of change. An assessment of a company relative position at the current point in time. So ultimately, you don't have to be arrogant, you don't have to be impatient. So then only you are going to achieve the benchmarking. To overcome barriers to benchmarking, project leader must clearly communicate to all concerned that what is the purpose, what is the scope, what is the procedure, and what are the expected benefits. So ultimately, what is going to happen? All benchmarking exercise begins with the same two steps, regardless of the focus of the benchmarking effort. And what are those two steps? The steps are: select the product, process, or functional area of the company that is to be benchmarked, and then decide what you have to do. When it comes to second point, what it says, that identify the best in class companies for each process to be benchmarked. So ultimately what you are doing, you are selecting the product as well as process, then area. Then in second point, you are considering that what are the processes which has to be benchmarked. Okay, then you are deciding like how to move it. Then when it comes to generally benchmarking in general, there are some points. Like finally, it is important to realize that benchmarking is not a one time effort. Every time you have to increase the quality of the product, every time you have to increase the reference point. Okay, then competitor will also be working hard to improve their operation, because it's not about your company or the your product. Others are also trying to improve their products as well. Benchmarking should be viewed as the first step in a process of continuous improvement if an organization intends to maintain operational advantages. See, if you are going to give the quality product, then people are going to like your product. Then what you have to do next time, you have to improve the other parameters. Then you are going to set the quality parameters, then your users will be more happy. Okay, so that was your benchmarking in general. Now we are going to see the competitive performance benchmarking, like when you are competing with the others. So what are the points? The point says that CP benchmarking involves testing a company's product against the best in class that can be found in the current marketplace. So there are other products as well of the other companies as well as your product. So here you are going to check, or you are going to check your competitive performance of your product with others. It is an important step for making comparison in the design and manufacturing of the products. The point is very clear. Benchmarking is used to develop performance data needed to set functional expectation for new products and to classify competition in the marketplace. You can see here, like, sometimes car manufacturers, they are just considering the segments, like 5 lakh rupees car. Okay, so they are setting a range, and based upon that range, other companies are also launching the similar kind of product. Then competitor performance benchmarking compares the performance of a company's product to the market's leading product. Maruti 800 will be compared with the Hyundai Santro. Okay, similar kind of competitive comparison they are going to make it. So benchmarking is a logical starting point in determining engineering characteristics for a product. The point to be remember here. Now comes to here, the design engineer takes the lead in determining the product's use, components and performance. So ultimately when it comes to benchmarking, you are going to test the product under the condition. You are going to determine all the methods, what are the components would be there, what are the processes would be there. It's responsibility of whose? It is the responsibility of the design engineer. So the design engineer's competitive performance benchmarking procedure is summarized in the following 8 steps. So there are 8 steps of competitive performance benchmarking. So first, what the design engineer has to do, design engineer first will determine features, functions and any other factors that are most important to the end user satisfaction. So here this feature function the design engineer will consider during the problem identification step. Now comes to the second step, what it says that determine feature and function that are important to the technical success of the product, because users are going to use your product and they are more concerned with the technicalities of the product if that is a technical product. Now comes to the third point, what it says that determine the functions that markedly increase the cost of the product, because you have to make it competitive with the others. Now comes to the fourth point, and what it says that determine the features and functions that differentiate the products from its competitor. So ultimately here you have to talk about the USP of your product. Now come to the fifth point, and it says that determine which functions have the greatest potential for the improvement. So here this unique function will make you capable of development of your product in a different way. Then comes to the sixth point, establish matrix by which the most important functions or feature can be quantified and evaluated. Here you have to create the matrix. Then 7th point, evaluate the product and its competing products using performance testing. So once you are developing the product, then you have to make a comparison with the other product as well. Then the last point and the last step, generate a benchmarking report summarizing all the information learn about the product, data collected and conclusions about the competitors. So these are the 8 steps of competitive performance benchmarking. So initially we have seen the benchmarking in general, what is the definition of the benchmarking, and after that we have started the competitive performance benchmarking, where you are comparing your product with the existing other competitors. Then what are the 8 steps of competitive performance benchmarking that we have seen just now. Thank you so much.